Let me just ask a layman's question. My cell phone, am I going to lose my calls if I'm going along Christina Parkway?
No, you're not. All the power lines that we have on our site will be buried and shielded sufficiently.
Probably this isn't the time. The air permitting process includes a public hearing process. Is that correct?
Yes, it does. DNREC will spearhead that meeting.
I've got a whole bunch of questions that my thought is maybe we'll do sort of lightning round, and some of them are ones that you've addressed in some way, so just bear with me if you don't mind. With all the open areas in the state, why are you putting this site with concerns, with emissions, et cetera, in the middle of a city of 20,000 people and students?
Well, it's kind of two answers to that. The first answer is that our emissions are going to be kept to a minimum, as we've talked about. The second reason is that the utilities that we need, the gas infrastructure and the fiber optic infrastructure that we need for high-speed internet is very close to this site, and therefore represents a much less impact to the community. Those are the two major reasons. And the other one, Rick reminded me, is the brownfield recovery of this site. Right now, it's a vacant site sitting with waste on it. We're going to recover that waste and reuse a significant amount of it in the construction of our facility, and make something out of the site that's better looking than what it is now.
As a homeowner, the city has, and I'm not sure how active it is, the solar panel project. We look at the drawings, we see an awful lot of upward-facing flat roof space. One would think that there'd be some benefit to having solar in there.
Yeah, we've looked at including solar, and we'll include it in the project if it makes financial sense down the road. I mean, I know it seems like there's a lot of, I guess there is a lot of roof space, and we'll utilize that as we can.
Can you describe what you mean by buying local? The question is phrased as, does this mean small businesses in a 5-mile radius, or does this mean Lowe's and Home Depot and Walmart, or something else? What does buying local mean to you and your plans?
Okay. Well, during construction, we will be buying local materials as much as possible. It reduces construction costs, and it also supports the community in a very good way. But once the facility is built, you'll have 300 people here every day using the local businesses, using the local pizza shops, buying gas locally, and supporting the local businesses in the area. Will I move here? I'll be actually living here for at least the next 3 years while it's being built. Will I stay? Probably not. I go to the next one.
As someone who has no idea what he's talking about, I'm going to ask you two related LEED questions, LEED. UD has recently constructed a LEED building, but it's actually not LEED certified, only equivalent by UD's definition. Will the data center be actually LEED certified or only equivalent by its own determination? And then a related one, what level of LEED certification are you aiming for? The highest LEED certification was given to a building in New York City, but the tenants are using way more energy than planned. LEED applies to the building and not to the actual implementation and the use.
Okay. That's actually like 5 questions.
Welcome to Newark.
So I guess we'll start with LEED certification. We will be going for LEED certification. There's actually 3 separate certifications for this site. There'll be a certification for the CHP facility, and there'll be a certification for the data center, and then a site certification. We're doing that so that we can achieve the highest levels of LEED standards. We are for the administration building and data centers, we're trying to achieve our goal setting session with our lead consultant. We're looking for platinum, which whoever asked that question is probably familiar with what that means. The CHP, we will be going for gold, and the site will be going for gold as well. So that answers the first couple questions. Now, in regard to the building in New York City, LEED has a couple different ways to certify. You can certify a core and shell, and you can certify the fit out, and then you have operational certifications. We will be going for all certifications, operation and maintenance down the road to prove that our energy efficiency. So what we'll do is we'll do an energy model that will show how well our building performs energy-wise, and then several years down the road, we will have to verify that that energy model actually applies to ensure that the building was installed and built with the LEED standards in mind, and so that we don't end up with what that building had in New York, where they got their LEED certification and they just didn't, you know, they didn't follow it with the operation and maintenance of the building.
Jumping around over to the jobs and the full-time jobs and IT jobs in specific in particular. IT jobs have had a tendency, depending on what they are, in getting outsourceable and overseas, for instance. What will tie these IT jobs to Newark?
There you go.
The jobs that we're creating are intended to stay here because we want, let's put it this way, I'm very patriotic. I believe very strongly that we need to ensure that American jobs stay in America, okay? And a lot of what's happening with these companies that go overseas is they outsource call centers and data processing and management of the computer systems. It's my intent to build more of these companies to do this around this country and continue doing this process where we bring jobs back to this country instead of giving them away to some other country. One more thing. You know, we're not asking for tax breaks, we're not asking for tax incentives, we're not asking for anything other than that $7.5 million grant that we've already asked for. And we will create and bring jobs to this country and do the things that we want to do in this country as it should be done, instead of giving them away and just having, you know, low-paying, you know, jobs. I don't believe in that, and I'm not going to allow it to happen if I can avoid it.
Can you describe, again, I'm jumping all around the place, as are the questions. Can you describe, to the extent you're able to, the terms of the agreement with the University of Delaware? I would imagine term, I'd imagine if there are any kind of clawback, any conditionals, any conditions on that, questions like that. Yes.
Yeah, I've got it memorized, so I can pretty much tell you what this one is. It's a 75-year lease with 4 5-year extensions. There are no clawbacks. We pay them a fixed amount, dollars per square foot under roof, as we build the facility out. And as soon as we get our certificate of occupancy, we start paying the university for it. It continues as long as we have the lease.
You shared a lot of information today, and you'll be putting it on the website tomorrow. What puts your feet to the fire of actually delivering on what specifically you've said today and you post tomorrow?
It's me. I guarantee it. I guarantee we're going to live up to what we say we're going to do, as I have been since we started doing this. And I'm all in on this project. This is what I started, what I'm doing, and this is everything that I do today. I have been full-time in this project since 2009. I will continue full-time in this project till we completely accomplish it, and then we go on and build more of these. That's my promise.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
I'm not questioning. I'm just posing the question, and I would judge if it's an answer. I'd say that is an answer. There we go. You've got 2 different revenue streams. You've got the data center revenue, and you have the sellback of excess power from your spinning turbines. Can you give us a ballpark? Are we talking 90-10, 50-50?
Yeah, the revenues from the sale of power in one form or another is less than 30% of our total revenue stream. The data center provides the bulk of the revenues for the facility.
How far away will I hear the operation?
We talked about this before. At the half-a-mile mark, which is the closest residential house, it won't be any louder than a normal conversation.
Um, that's a 24/7 conversation, though, right?
Well, the construction, I mean, yes, there will be some noise during construction, but I mean, we're not doing, I mean, we're not installing any, any large equipment that, I mean, there'll be bulldozers, but that'll be operating within normal working hours and operating, within the normal city ordinances of noise.
So let's stay on construction. The debris, dust, noise. What exit will the truck? What entrance and exits will the trucks use? Can you help us understand what to expect during the construction phase?
Okay. First, the dust and that will be controlled during construction. The construction entrance will be on Christiana Parkway, and I mean everybody's seen a construction project, but we'll be doing a lot of work on the site. Most construction projects see tons of concrete trucks coming on and off. We'll be setting up a concrete plant at the site, so you won't have concrete trucks coming in and out all the time. But the entrance will be on Christiana Parkway.
There's a few different things I wanted to hit. The quarter mile. We have members of the audience who feel that there's places that are notably closer than a quarter mile. Sorry, you said a half mile, right?
Yeah.
And there's residents who feel that they're much closer to the Star Campus than that, much closer than the Star Campus. That's you guys have done not only to the Star Campus, but where on the Star Campus your facility is. And do you feel confident?
Yes, we feel confident, and we have to comply with the Newark city noise ordinances. I mean, there's no permanent official that's going to allow us to install anything that violates that. So we will have to maintain those noise ordinances, at our property line and at the nearest residential location. And if we don't, then we'll be held accountable for that, and we'll have to change our design to make that work.
Okay, let's use a hypothetical. And we have a sound meter out there, and you're 20% over the limits. What can you redesign at that point? How is it not already set in stone?
Well, that's not going to happen because we have an acoustical engineer involved on the project, and they will be studying the noise and doing calculations and simulations to guarantee that that doesn't happen.
Have you considered having the power plant more remote than the Star Campus, say over down Elkton Road and towards the Stein-Haskell Labs, and having it close but not as close to residences?
We have. In fact, that was actually part of the design criteria for locating the facilities next to each other, is how much it costs for the electrical copper coming from one building to another. And it's not cost effective to move it more than a quarter of a mile away from each other. So a large scale property like a 380 or 400 acre site would be approximately a quarter mile across. That would be about the longest we could actually do this and make it economically feasible from a financial viewpoint. So going a half mile or more, you're right back in a situation where you don't control the flow of electricity to your site. You're again relying on the grid. You're outside of your own ballpark, so now you have to count on PJM again, and that just alleviates the entire reasoning behind doing this. You're right back to counting on a more and more stressed area that you don't have any control over.
I think from your earlier conversation, your earlier presentation,
I just wanted to add, one of the features about bringing this to the Star Campus is to improve the efficiency that you can get out of this plant, so you get the most power for the emissions that are being generated. If you move the plant a quarter mile, half mile, 2 miles away, you get the same emissions in the same area. And you actually decrease the efficiency of the whole operation, so you generate more emissions for the amount of power that you're using. This is a good package to minimize the environmental hazards that are inherent with generating power and minimize the emissions and make it an efficient use of the energy source that we're using. As you start to separate things, that doesn't improve anything. It actually makes it worse because you become less efficient, you generate more emissions, and you aren't really improving the health or safety for any individuals.
On the sound, if I live a mile away, what level of sound can I expect?
Even less than if you were a quarter mile away.
Okay, how about a little more specific than that?
Yeah, right.
I figured that part out myself.
Yeah, it'll be less than 50 decibels, and as you get farther away, the sound dissipates, even more. I mean, that's as specific an answer as I can give you. Yeah, sound studies will be part of the design, the engineering design process that's going on in the next several months.
Is there an architect firm? Who are they? Where are they located? Is there a construction manager identified? Who are they and where are their headquarters?
Okay. What we've done, we have an architect on board. They're on the boards. It's Mitchell Associates out of Wilmington. We have, and Duffield is the site engineer. We've hired Sargent & Lundy, who also has an office in Delaware, as our CHP engineer. And Kling Stubbins Jacobs is our data center engineer. And they're developing the owner's requirements document for us. Next week, we will be interviewing EPC contractors. That stands for Engineer, Procure, and Construct. And then what will happen is they will take our owner's requirement document and they will develop a full engineering package from that document, and then they will procure all the equipment, and then they will build with strict oversight from our engineers who represent the owners, represents our design through the entire construction process. Sargent & Lundy and Kling Stubbins will have on-site engineers monitoring every piece of the design and install during construction to ensure that it's compliant with what we're presenting today.
You've mentioned studies of for instance, if you put a data center in, how many jobs it produces. There's a lot of industry data out there. When you put in a power plant of this capacity and this source, have you examined studies regarding the impact on property values in different radiuses out?
We haven't done that study yet. We're working on the economic studies, which will reflect that.
The economic studies that you'll be designing will address that, and that will be shared with the community?
We're not designing the economic studies. We're having them done by Wharton. Wharton School of Business is performing economic studies for us, and those will be performed over the next month or month and a half, I think it is. And we'll get those numbers on where that all stands. It's not you got to remember, this is a data center facility, folks. It's a data center. It's not a power plant. We're not generating power and selling it to the grid. We're doing a data center.
You mentioned in your presentation that this is a new design, patent pending, et cetera, et cetera. It sounds like it's bleeding edge. Can you address the concerns the community would have on? I mean, you can't have track record on bleeding edge implementation. So, how are you going to help us sleep at night on that question?
Well, a couple things. We're not using any new technology. We're using technology, well-proved, thank you, technology from the generators to the data center. We're just putting them together in a different way. But that's why we have, the Sargent & Lundys and the Kling Stubbins of the world involved on the engineering side, because they're the best in the business of how to put this together and interconnect it and, make it a good, solid engineering design.
I just wanted to confirm what you said earlier, which is additional questions, in-depth questions can be sent to info@thedatacenters.com. Mm-hmm. Answers will be returned to the person asking, and hopefully also posted on the website. Okay, so got a lot of questions here, and you're also taking some notes on what we're going over, and the city is maintaining the video of this, making it available online and through Channel 22. Okay, I'm just saying some of the obvious there. Okay, track record. The traffic from the construction process, the workers there, the traffic from the full-time employees, the part-time employees, is that something that has any traffic impact study requirements? Is that obviously traffic is a big concern for the city of Newark. Can you talk about if there's any hurdles there?
Yeah, actually, I can. As we've said, during construction there will be, some trucks coming in and out, and once we get to full build out, we have 300 employees. The infrastructure in that area was built out to support the Chrysler plant several years ago, more than several years ago, and that supported roughly 1,000 people per shift, 24 hours a day, 3 shifts a day. We won't, even during construction, we won't be coming close to 3,000 people per day going up and down the road. So the infrastructure will support anything that we need.
As your customer base is growing, will you still be generating 50 or more megawatts of excess power, or is that 50 measure, does that increase depending on whether you're in phase 1 or phase 2? And
no, those numbers that's our maximum output. So it doesn't, the number of people that we have as clients in the data center doesn't affect that 50 megawatts.
What technology is being used to reach your estimated 45% recapture of the CO2? And has this technology been used commercially to date so that we are reassured that recapture rate is truly achievable?
Yes, and Air Liquide can provide more specifics, and I can provide those. But yes, they're using proven technologies that they use, and that's what Air Liquide does. They process CO2 from various sources and purify and liquefy it.
Have you sought a proposal from the PJM, and that's the grid? I'm sorry, is that the grid? The interconnection organization, to provide electricity prior to deciding to build the electrical generation station?
I'm sorry, ask that again.
Sure. Did you seek a proposal from PJM to provide the electricity prior to deciding to build the electrical generation system?
No.
I didn't say it was a difficult answer.
It wasn't.
Can you speak to the concerns of nearby residents who have asthma?
As part of the permitting process, we have to do an air dispersion model that looks at where our emissions go and how they change the ambient air. And we are not allowed to deteriorate the quality of the air or we don't get a permit. And we have to be able to prove that. And then there's the plant will have a continuous emissions monitoring system to look at the emissions that are coming from it. There's real-time, real data coming back on how the plant is performing. And that's subject to meeting our permit limitations that do come out. It should not increase, particularly things like asthma, which are primarily particulate related. The natural gas-fired plant is about the least emitting technology that is out there for particulate. So it will not deteriorate air quality, and that's by design.
At what state is how stable, how dependable is your financing, given that we're in Delaware and we've had, let's say, a particular car company who had some problems with financing? How confident should we be in you guys having the financing you need for this project?
One of the reasons that we chose Lexington Capital was because of their skill and expertise in helping us to raise the monies that we require. We have looked at a variety of different financing sources and funding sources, and working with Lexington has proven that proven to be very fruitful. And we're very certain that Lexington will be able to provide the capital we require to continue the project and to accomplish what we're set out to do.
Sorry, there's a whole bunch. Is it correct that there was a confidentiality agreement between the data centers and some form of the city, and why was that necessary?
That one's mine. This, as we've said several times, this is a patent pending process, and there's a lot of information that we're dealing with in our design and the approach that we're taking that has to be kept proprietary to us until we're ready to disclose it. And that's part of why we asked the city to sign a confidentiality agreement with us. Now, there's certain parts of that that are just typical permitting and other engineering phases that we have to go through that are public information. But there's still other pieces of this. This is a privately held company. This is a private venture, and it's been funded by the founders and by the investors. So it's not something we're going to disclose exactly our cost or our expenses to anyone. And that's just business at its best.
There's been considerable uproar, I'm reading, uproar in the community about the power plant. But yesterday on WDEL Talk Radio, you stated that you called for this meeting. Is this accurate? Did you call for tonight's meeting?
Michael?
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. And what are your plans regarding engaging the community going forward?
As far as meetings go?
What are your plans for engaging the community going forward? As far as that's really, the answer's up to you.
There are several different approaches we're taking. There is going to be another meeting at some point. I don't know when. I know it's going to be after we get further along in our engineering. There will be, of course, the DENREC meeting, which is a meeting held by DENREC that will be open to the public as well, I think. But that's not our meeting, that's theirs. As far as progress along the path, some of it you'll see. As we break ground, there will be a groundbreaking ceremony. As we open the doors, there'll be an opening day ceremony. And we will invite the community into those events. So I don't have exact dates and times for those yet, but as we get them, we'll post them on our website. We'll share them with the city, and I'm sure the city will share them with the rest of you.
It's fracking time. Some of the natural gas comes through fracking technology. You've described... Hey, you can't shrug your shoulders till I get to the question. Okay. You've described the data center as being committed to being good citizens, both locally and presumably nationally and globally. How do you, I'm going to use the term reconcile that with concerns that have been raised regarding fracking?
Let's look at it. There's two different things that if you look at it, a molecule of gas is a molecule of gas. We don't know where the molecules of gas that are delivered to our site come from. We're not going out and buying some from some well or from some fracking company natural gas. We're buying natural gas as a commodity on the commodities market, and it's being delivered to us. We don't know where the molecules of gas come from, and I don't know of any way that you can tell that. And as far as I know, there's no way to separate where the Louisiana system, the distribution system, actually gets their natural gas from. So I really can't answer the question. I mean, we're not going out and purposely buying property in Pennsylvania to frack. We're not doing anything like that. We're just buying natural gas on a commodity market.
Because this can, just because I'm going to read this question, which elected officials have you met with about this project?
Carol Houck. No, we met with her. She's not elected, I know. We've met with, well, okay, Mike.
Representative Qualco.
John,
I met twice at my request and their request,
We-
and that resulted in this informational meeting, so I want to applaud the effort of the company in following up on that meeting that I have with them.
Michael, the other elected you've met with?
Representative, these two representatives over here, city councilmen, sorry, Mark Moorhead and
Sid Markham.
Sid Markham.
Mark
Thursday and
met
Friday.
last Thursday with me and
Friday,
representatives.
with Representative Hayden.
And you
March.
met with Marge Hayden.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we're very transparent. We've if you want anybody that wanted to meet with us, we want to get out and talk to everybody.
And it's correct that we have an open invitation that if we find groups that would like to sit down with you,
Absolutely.
we'll work through that.
Yep.
Excellent. And I'm going to ask a question. I think it's partially been answered already, but I'm still going to give you the chance to address it. One could say you've been working on this in Newark for 1.5 years, but community meetings with electeds have happened in the past 30 days or so. Why not sooner?
Actually, the local city officials we have been only meeting with recently, and that's been driven by the stage of the progress of the project itself. Some of your state representatives and state senators, people from the governor's office, from other non-elected state offices, we've met with over the last 2 years, okay? This project takes, in any state you go to, we looked at 21 sites in 5 states. We spoke to the governor of those 5 states and his cabinet members, as well as many elected officials from all those states, to help us select the proper location for this facility. And, you know, it's been a long, drawn-out effort, and the effort will continue. You know, part of what we're trying to accomplish at this stage of the progress is to disseminate information, not only to you, but to your elected officials, so they're very much aware of what we're doing and the benefits of this project to the area.
There's at least 2 questions regarding terrorism. And are we making Newark a target? With, again, the combination of the fuel tank cars and now with, as you mentioned, a high capacity of data for the country flowing through this area, again, help us sleep well at nights.
This will be a very secure facility. We've talked about the berming that goes around the outer site. And data centers are not typically a site, but one of the major things about this site is that there will be no signage telling you that it's a data center. If you didn't know today that what we're telling you, it wouldn't have been broadcast, basically, to anybody else around the world. Part of that is security by, just by being obscure. And we try to keep it obscure. We try not to make it look like, a data center. We don't put data center on the outside of it. We don't use the mailing address. We'll actually use a post office box for the mailing address for this location, because that's another way of just keeping off of the radar and off the internet for searches and the rest of it. And as far as I know, no data center in the United States has been a terrorist target yet. So,
If you fail, I'm sorry, let me jump in. The meetings with the city council, the 3 city council members, that was 3 individual meetings with 1 council member each at a time. Is that correct? 2 and 2. 2 at a time and 2 at a time. Okay. Moorhead and Markham and Hayden, and I missed the 4th. 2 and 1. 3 total. Yes, 2 and 1.
council members.
Yeah. Right. One, and then 2. Okay. You don't want to think about this. If you fail as a data center, do you purpose yourselves as a power plant?
No, if we fail as a data center, we fail as a power plant. We can't, the 2 are intertwined. They're very closely intertwined. We spoke to several energy companies about running the power plant, as you call it, for us. And you can't make a commercially viable power plant in this location. It doesn't work. Financially, it doesn't work. This is a CHP plant that's supporting a data center. It's not vice versa. So if we can't sell the data center space, the whole thing fails and the whole thing goes away. And in case something like that happens, the university reclaims the site and we have to clean it up before we leave. We have to tear down our buildings and all that kind of good stuff. It's in the contract.
Does the Wake study mean something to one of you up here? Has the Wake study been completed, and what is the plan to share the Wake study information with city residents?
No. Well, it's not been completed.
Can you explain what a Wake study is?
It's not a Wake study. It's the name of the company is Wake Technology Services, and they're doing a site selection survey for us. And that's just part of what Wake does, is goes out and selects sites. And they're viewing a bunch of brownfield sites in this state. They're looking in Pennsylvania, they're looking in New Jersey, they're looking in Maryland, and 9 other states for a total of 44 locations to build others of these plants. The Wake study you're referring to, I think, is a county study? Is that what they're referring to?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Real quick, real loud.
You're talking about a wind wake study.
A wind wake study? Is that
A wind wake analysis? Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's part of the air dispersion modeling that we need to do for the air permit application that we're preparing. And that will be, first off, the modeling techniques have to be approved by the state and by EPA. We are using EPA models. We are using live meteorological data, and we have to input the buildings that we are planning to put up to look at the wake effect as part of that dispersion modeling. We will need to adjust stack heights to minimize wake effect if it turns out that that is an issue. So far in the modeling, it has not. Does that answer the question? Correct. The land, the gentleman asked if Iron Hill was taken into account, and the answer is absolutely yes. The current EPA model uses USGS data for topographic conditions, land use, land development, buildings, and that feeds in as input to the model, as well as real live air records, meteorological records for both upper atmosphere and ground level atmosphere, and that it's all crunched through a finite element model. And then the output is, because you do it pollutant by pollutant, and you look at the concentration at a grid location, which is set up very densely locally and gets more widely spread as you get out 50, 100 miles. And we have to meet the air quality national, we cannot deteriorate the air quality at any given location. We fully expect that we are below the de minimis level at all locations, but we've got to prove that. And compliance is at each and every point, not at one point, but not at another point.
Okay, it's about 10 after 9. My hope is to give you no more than 10 minutes worth of more questions, then maybe give you 2 or 3 minutes to closing comments, and then we'll break up. Presumably you'll stay around a little bit for one-on-one questions, but I wanted to give that expectation out there. Okay? Say it again.
I think it would be better if we answered the detailed questions. You're going to give us all those when we leave, right?
I'll take that under advisement. I don't know the answer offhand.
Okay.
Okay.
We're not going to stay around after this, but you can contact us on our website, and somebody will get back to you.
That's fine. Can you help the residents understand how will CO2 emissions be monitored on a daily basis? And will this be public information?
Rick?
As I said earlier, there will be a continuous emissions monitoring system installed, and that we'll be looking at key components. It'll be up to DENREC as to whether we are required to put in CO2 or whether we do so voluntarily, because it's not a criteria pollutant at the moment. Usually that data is reported on an annual basis. It's overwhelming. It's hour by hour, or minute by minute, actually. Data, it has to be digested, translated, and looked at in light of the permit requirements, which are 1 hour compliance, 3 hour compliance, 24-hour compliance, and annual compliance. So the data will not be available real time. It won't even be available real time outside of the CHP.
I'm jumping around these last few questions. On the posters scattered around the room, the background beyond the trees is all grayed out. What infrastructure lies in those grayed out areas, and is that something that perhaps can be clarified in the future?
No. No infrastructure for us lies in those grayed out areas other than the electric lines that are going up to the DMAX substation. All of our infrastructure will be on the site as you see it. We grade those out because they're residential area and surrounding areas that are pretty intense to model. So we didn't model those in the 3D.
Not really residential, because that's a half-mile away or more, right?
Well, right, but our property line is what we've rendered.
Your property line. Okay. Go ahead.
First off, as far as the location within Star Campus goes, this site is almost a mile into the site from 896. So I don't know whether that helps people visualize. If residents are familiar with where the old paint shop was, or the new building at Chrysler, this is between that location and the railroad tracks.
The Devon community is just on the far side of those railroad
But
tracks.
where across the railroad tracks are you located? Are you
50 yards or so.
Yeah, the railroad extends for over a mile along the Star Campus, so that's what I'm trying to.
Perhaps it would be helpful if if you're able to put up a map of the site map and include the Devon community and have scale on there to figure out distance. Is that reasonable to ask?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, all right. And 1,000 feet sounds like it's well under a half mile. But with a map and with renderings, we'll be able to see exactly where your footprint is and where the nearest homes are. The noise, we've mentioned it in decibels. I understand it's also issues of frequency, and certainly dogs who understand dog whistles hear different frequencies from humans. Can you talk about the sound for wildlife in the area, and I mean, can you talk about that issue as far as not only the decibel level, but also the frequency level?
We'd have to provide that on our website. I don't have all the decibels memorized and the intensities.
But you can get that information.
We can.
Okay. Gas supply, I've got two questions. Does cold weather affect your gas supply? Does that, and how does that, do you need to do more? Do you need to burn more? Do you need to cool less?
Actually, the turbines become more efficient. We're installing pre-coolers on the inlets of the turbines. The gas density is affected by the weather, but that doesn't significantly affect our emissions.
Second question is, there's some business ventures that work better with low costs for natural gas. And I assume yours is in that business model. If there is a protracted increase in natural gas rates to get up towards, say, the June 2008 levels, how will that affect your business model?
The sale of electricity to our clients within the data center has covenants where if the price for us to create our electricity rises, we pass that price along to our clients. So if we would have to really reach very, very high levels before it became economically unfeasible for them to stay with us, and they would move to some lower cost location like North Carolina or something like that. And even then, those lower cost locations are going to be where it's hydro-based or where it's nuclear-based energy that they're purchasing, because that is the cheapest electricity at this point in time. So it would be, from the modeling that we've done financially and the way the natural gas is going at this point in time, we don't think we'll have an impact for 20 to 30 years at least, where it would impact our business model at all.
Can you give a little details on the berms as far as height and width?
That'll be part of our acoustical study and a part of the protection from the railroad derailing. But like 40 feet wide. We've looked at about 40 feet wide and about 25 feet high as an initial design, just for cost, construction cost estimating. But those berms will be what they need to be to minimize the sound and to protect the site from the railroad on the north side.
You have employee parking spaces on your diagrams?
Yes, we do.
Rough number?
It's about 300, about 350 across the entire site, and it's spread out across the entire site depending on which building it's servicing.
I'm going to call it a day for the questions. Do you have any close-up comments you'd like to make? Let me start by saying thank you for coming out.
We'd also like to thank the great number of people who stayed with us this long and hung out and stayed here through the questioning. We appreciate your time, and we hope that we got a better, more complete story across to you about what we're doing, how we're doing it, our time frames, and what we're trying to accomplish. I know that these are the facts. We're not working on conjecture. We're not asking misleading questions. We are providing the information from our engineering studies and from our design viewpoints. We are not out here to, push some other thing. We have to meet all the requirements of the state and federal government, and we will do so. It's that simple. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you all for staying here for all this time and your excellent questions. I appreciate it.